Over the years, I have heard many people talk about their belief in God. I've heard other people talk about their non-belief in God. And I respect both opinions, I really do. I've had 16 years of Catholic education, so you would assume that I was taught to believe in God. And it's very important that you remember the word I just used. I was taught to believe in God. I was not shown God. It's a big difference. As the years went by, I still had this belief in the God given to me in school, loving, forgiving, and guiding, but above all, a punishing God. Fortunately for me, I entered the 12-step program in 1970, and one of the steps of recovery in this program is it says find God of your understanding. And I have found God of my understanding. I've taken the time to write down 9 occasions in my life where death was knocking at my door. And for some reason, I didn't open the door. Something saved me. And that's my introduction for me into my God. It's a lot easier for me to say something was taking care of me in spite of myself. As you hear these stories, you'll see that in many cases I was on the road to destruction, and something got in the way, and my life was not taken from me. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this narration. The first near-death experience occurred when I was 5 years old. My mother and father took me to a beach. They left me on the beach, on a beach blanket, as they went back to a tavern to drink. While on the beach by myself, I saw boats in the water. I walked down where the boats were. Remember, I'm only 5 years old. I walked down where the boats are. As I'm peering at the boats, somebody came behind me and pushed me into the water. At that age, I couldn't swim. I vividly remember going down in the water to the point where I scratched my leg on a nail that was sticking out from one of the pilings that held up the pier. The next thing I remember, I'm back on the beach. People standing over me, including my parents, and I assume they're pumping water out of my lungs. And it was relayed to me what happened. When I was looking at the boats at the pier, somebody pushed me from behind into the water. I don't know who the person was, but just pushed me. If somebody had not witnessed me being pushed into the water, I wouldn't be doing this story. I would have died that day. But as you will see, as I reveal more stories to you, somebody was taking care of me. I choose to call it my God. So the first time death was knocking on my door was when I was 5 years old. And I want you to listen to the rest of my stories, and you make your own opinion. But I truly believe some kind of a mystical higher power has saved my life all these years. Now the next story
Accident in military.
Relates to an accident I had when I was in the U.S. Navy during the Korean War. Well, aboard ship and a very dangerous assignment at sea, I was told to do something that was basically a two-man job. But the other fellow was drunk and he couldn't show up. So the skipper of my ship said, "You have to do it yourself." And I said to him, "This is too dangerous." He says, "You have to do it." What the assignment was, we were taking two fully loaded barges across the harbor to the other side of the island where they were building an airfield. While we were going out of the harbor onto the open sea to get to the other side of the island, my ship was rocking pretty severely. We had two lines holding on to the two barges. This is where you needed two men to control each line, but there wasn't two men available, it was only me. So I did the best I could to control both lines in the rolling sea with my ship bouncing up and down and the barges jumping up and down. And I was so concerned about holding on to these, what they call bowlines, which is rope intertwined with metal to give them strength. I didn't see it, but a fish hook caught onto a glove I was wearing. And before I knew it, I was being dragged into what I call a winch that was spinning around, taking in slack from the cables or letting out more room for the cables. The glove I was wearing got caught in one of these fish hooks. And before I knew it, my hand was being dragged into the machine. And I knew right away that this was the end of me. I was going to be crushed as the cable came in and wound itself around the, what they call a winch. I also injured my back at this time, trying to save myself by pulling on the lines to get more strength on the lines to stop the barges from bouncing up and down in the water. But the damage was done. In this process, I tore open the thumb of my left hand and the blood was pouring out, mostly in my face. I could taste it. The machine kept going around, and I really figured I was going to die. There was no shipmate around to help me. And so this is how life ends. But all of a sudden the machine stopped. I don't know why it stopped, it stopped. When it stopped, a shipmate of mine was walking by on the other side of the ship, and he saw what was going on, and he came over and unwound the cable, and I got my hand loose. But at this point, my left hand, most of it, was crushed. There was no bleeding, it was just crushed. The bleeding was from my right hand, where I tore open an artery trying to save my life. So my brush with near-death theory is, if my shipmate had not come along and unwound the winch, I think I would not be doing this narration. So as far as I'm concerned, it's another case where death was knocking at my door, but I didn't open the door. Thank you. The next episode
Totaling car.
related to a car accident I had somewhere in the late 60s. I had been drinking all that day and driving around New York looking for the ideal bar to drink in. And New York's a big place, and I stopped in a few bars and had some drinks. I won't say I was getting drunk, but I was just wandering from bar to bar. And I parked my car in the garage. I was walking the streets of New York. I decided to go back to my old neighborhood where I knew all the bars in New York City, and I would resume my drinking there. I got in my car and I started driving up Broadway to my old neighborhood where a few of my favorite bars were located. While driving up Broadway, going north on Broadway, the brakes in my car gave out. I had no more brakes. I had to assume I panicked, and I was blowing my horn because there were pedestrians crossing the street in front of me, and I quickly got out of the way. And then I looked at the other side of the road where the traffic was going south, and I blindly turned the car into the south lane, hoping to get down to a service street. And luckily, I turned on the right street. It was a service street. But I didn't know what was at the end of the street. The car was still going. I couldn't stop the car. I'm blowing the horn as I got down the service street because there were people in the streets looking at my car racing down the street. When I got to the end of the street, I realized that, again, I may be dying. This may be my last day alive. So I laid flat in my car, assuming I was going to hit a building that was in front of me. I didn't know what kind of building it was, but I saw the building. I figured I'll lay flat in my car, and if any glass comes flying back, it'll miss my face. As I approached the building, there was a small curb in front of the building. My front wheels hit this small curb. It lifted my car up, and it smacked right into the building, and the car bounced back. The front end of the car was destroyed because of the impact, but I was not hurt. When the glass broke, it didn't come back to where I was sitting down in the front seat. I got out of the car, looked at the damage, and the front end was destroyed because of the impact. I may have been going 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour when I hit this building. But then I noticed behind the building was a fence. I went over to the fence and I looked down beyond the fence, and lo and behold, what's underneath me were railroad tracks. And I gazed, they were about 100 feet below me. So here comes my close encounter with death. If my car had not hit that little curb, if the curb was not there, I would have went right through this building, through the metal fence, and into the courtyard, into the railroad tracks, and there I would die. But again, it was not my time. As I mentioned, the car hit the curb, it bounced up, hit the building, and bounced back. The car was destroyed. The car was just no good anymore after that accident. And I walked away scot-free. And as far as I'm concerned, again, death knocked at my door, but I didn't open it.
The next is lock in bolt.
This one is really a strange one. I hope you're enjoying these stories. And they're all true because I lived them. I'm not prone to lying, and it's taken me a lot of years to remember all these specifics, to record them. But I decided recently to record these 9 cases where death was knocking at my door. In this case, I'd gotten a summer job in a company called McKenzie and Company. They were a worldwide consulting firm. It was a summer job because I was going to college. I didn't drink in those days. One of my responsibilities at this job, at the close of business each day, was to take all the ledgers and put them back in the vault. That was one of my responsibilities. This particular day, I got the ledgers, went into the vault, and put them back in the vault in the appropriate place, and then I heard the vault door slam shut. And I heard people say, "Good night." Well, I thought my fellow employees were playing a game on me, just joking. I realized very quickly it was not a joke. All of a sudden, it was just silence. I'm in a dark room. There was no flashlight, no lights there, no air, and I'm banging on the door. I guess I was saying, "Help, help, help." There was no response, no response. And I figured, oh God, I may be dead by the time somebody comes along and opens this little door. Because there was no air there, no lights, so it was just me in this dark vault. After a while, I heard a voice. And I banged on the door very hard, and I heard a voice say, "Is somebody in there? Is somebody in there?" I screamed out, "Yes, somebody's in there." The lady opened the door, whose name was Emily. When she realized what the situation was, she broke down and cried. She said, "Ed, if I didn't come back, you'd be dead by the time the morning rolled around when we reopened the vault." But here comes a strange event as to why she came back. Back in those days, a lot of women went to Catherine Gibbs finishing school for women, and most of them wore white gloves in the summertime. Well, this was the summertime. As I mentioned, I had a summer job. Emily, who wore these white gloves, had left the office this particular day and forgot her gloves. When she got to the train station, she still had some time left before the train came, and she realized she had forgotten her gloves. And she couldn't decide to go back for the gloves or get them tomorrow morning. Lucky for me, she decided to go back and get the gloves. If she hadn't decided that, again, I would not be making this recording. So Emily had come back, opened the vault, and I came out, and I'm still alive to record this episode of where death knocked on my door, and I didn't open the door.
The next is suicide attempts.
Another very strange circumstance, which I don't like to talk about. I really don't. As I mentioned earlier, I have to tell the truth. I could lie, but I can't lie. When I was injured during the Korean War, where I lost most of my left hand, I didn't know I was going to suffer from post-traumatic stress. I did not know that. And for years, I I guess I was normal. I got married, had children, finished college, became a CPA, got an executive job, and I'm not drinking. Everything looked very good. Then the war in Vietnam came along, and my first reaction to the war was just another war. But when the anti-war picketing and parades began in New York City, something happened in my head. I didn't know it at the time, but the anti-war people were triggering in me hate for these anti-war people. And I have now found out from my counseling over the years, my post-traumatic stress was turned loose by the anti-war protesters. And I started to drink quite heavily. Things got so bad, I was getting into fights on a regular basis. I didn't want to live anymore. I volunteered to go to Vietnam to work for the government because I wanted to die. They wouldn't take me because I was married with 6 children. I wanted to take up parachute jumping, hoping to die, because I didn't know what I was suffering from, this post-traumatic stress. I really didn't know. But I was going crazy. And it seemed like dying was the only way out of this thing. So I couldn't get to Vietnam, they wouldn't take me. I was married with 6 children. I went to the parachute company, they wouldn't take me because I was married with 6 children. So the only thing left to me was suicide. So I went home one day, I had a whole bunch of pills there, sleeping pills and antidepressant pills, I believe. I didn't know I was suffering from post-traumatic stress. But I had seen doctors who knew something was wrong with me, and they kept giving me these pills, antidepressant pills, sleeping pills. And you put that on top of the drinking, and believe me, you go crazy. Anyway, this particular day, I just give up the ghost. I didn't want to live anymore. So I went home to take all the pills that I had and end my life. I think I was 36 or 37 at the time. When I got home, there was nobody in my home. At this point in my marriage to my wife, when she knew I was drinking because I was violent, she would take the kids away. So this day I came home, there was nobody home. Which didn't bother me because I was just going to commit suicide. So I went upstairs to my bedroom, I got all the pills, a glass of water, swallowed all the pills, went to bed to die. Again, I went out. I must have passed out in my bed. But lo and behold, my wife came home. She doesn't know why she came home, but she came home. And she saw what I had done, and she called the police, who came and saw what I had done. The ambulance came, they rushed me to the hospital. I vaguely recall being in the ambulance with the police or the doctor saying to me, hang on, you'll be okay, hang on. That's the last thing I remember. I woke up a few days later in a padded cell in this mental hospital. And then I didn't know what had happened. I was so drugged with the tranquilizers, sleeping pills, and alcohol. I think I was out for a couple of days. I'm in this padded cell, this mental hospital. Eventually, they opened the padded cell door, and 2 doctors came in. And they said to me, young man, you're very sick. Why did you try to kill yourself? And I said, because I don't want to live. He said, why don't you want to live? And I said, what are you, stupid? I don't want to live. Again, I didn't know the power of post-traumatic stress, that I was suffering from the injuries I sustained in the Korean War. So after stay in the hospital, they sent me home. But at this juncture, when I came home, my wife had got a peace bond, a court order, and I couldn't go home anymore. The police brought me home from the mental hospital. There was a suitcase in front of my house. My wife had given $50 to the police, and that was for me, and then goodbye and good luck. And that's the last time I was in my house. So death was knocking at my door again that day. I took all the pills. But again, strangely enough, something happened. That something was my wife came home. I don't know why she came home, but she came home, saw all the pills I had taken, and made the appropriate phone calls to the appropriate people which saved my life. Again, death was knocking at my door, and again, I didn't open the door.
The next is heart attack.
Another interesting story. In 1978, I was no longer drinking, no longer taking drugs. My life was going along very, very smoothly. I got an executive job at a bank as a chief executive officer and a chief financial officer with a salary of $225,000 a year, company car, 4 weeks vacation, a lot of prestige, many write-ups in the local newspapers, some of the things I was doing in the course of my job. But I've always been a workaholic, working 7 days a week. And I didn't know, again, that's the trait of somebody who suffers from post-traumatic stress. I never knew why I worked 7 days a week. People would say, "Why do you work on Saturday and Sunday? There's nobody else in these buildings but you." My answer was all the same: I like to work. I would get dressed on Saturday and Sunday, just like it was a work day, and go to work. And the building was empty except for me. But to me, that was normal. Looking back in retrospect, it was not normal. One of the traits of the post-traumatic stress, I was running away from reality. I had to stay busy. Working 7 days a week in this high-pressure job kept me very busy, physically and mentally. We had a Christmas party that December. And I went to the Christmas party, and it was a lovely party. And I've always liked to dance, especially Latin dances. When I got to the party, I felt good. No pains, no nothing. I'm not drinking or drugging, and I love to dance. So I got a dance partner. We went out on the floor, and we danced the first number of Latin dances. I love Latin dances. And then we sat down and took a break. The band started to play again. I said to Kathy, my partner, "Let's go dance." When I stood up, I fell down, had a heart attack, and I was dead. Here comes the miracle of death knocking at my door. There was a fellow employee at the party whose wife was a nurse. And they left the party early, and they got outside by the elevators. They pressed the button. Now they're telling me the story. They pressed the button to go down. They were waiting for the elevator, and they heard the commotion inside where the party was. They heard people screaming. So they came back inside, the nurse and the fellow employee. So the fellow employee and his wife, who was a nurse, rushed back to the meeting. Being a nurse, she knew what to do. She jumped on my chest and started doing what people do to people like me who've had a heart attack. The ambulance came. They took me to the hospital. don't recall this part of the scenario, but a few days later, I came to in the hospital, and I did not recall the event about the heart attack. In fact, I didn't recall anything. My memory was gone. It turns out I was dead for a total of 6 minutes, and the oxygen didn't get to my brain, so my brain shut down. And eventually the doctors came to see me, and they said, Ed, we told your fellow employees you were dead, and you had stopped breathing, we couldn't revive you, and while we were telling your fellow employees you were dead, the nurse came running outside and said, he's breathing. And the doctors rushed back inside, and lo and behold, I was breathing, and they put the ventilation machines back on, and I started to breathe with the aid of machines. Death knocking on my door. If that nurse was not in that party, if that elevator had come that they had pressed to go down, and it came, they wouldn't have heard the screaming. But thankfully, they heard the screaming, they came back, they saw what had happened. The nurse jumped on my chest, did what she's trained to do, and she saved my life. Again, death was knocking at my door, and I didn't open it.
Okay, the next is sleeping in the street.
As I mentioned earlier in these narrations, because of my post-traumatic stress problem, I became a chronic alcoholic very quickly in 1967. A chronic alcoholic to me is somebody, me, who gets so sick from drinking, the only solution to this sickness was more drinking. It never passed my mind not to drink, which was causing me to be sick. My alcoholic mind said, drink more, you feel better. And friends, when you drink more in that state, you get sicker. And after a 5-day binge, I would be so sick for I don't know how long. I never swore off drinking again, but the binges were very bad. From 1967 to 1970, whatever can happen to a drunk happened to me. Lost my family, wife and 6 children, lost executive jobs, went to jail, went to mental hospitals on 2 occasions, including one with a suicide, untold violence on my fellow human beings. I found out later on in my counseling with the VA psychiatrist, in my post-traumatic stress, my mind said I would feel better if I hurt other people. And my friends, that is insanity, but that's what my mind said. So I went through a spell of wanting to hurt people. And luckily, I never did hurt other people. But when the drinking got so bad, and going on these binges, not going to work, losing jobs, on 3 separate occasions, once in New York City, in the Bowery section of New York City, I was on a binge, and in those days in the Bowery, it was a very dangerous place, and I knew that. So I always carried a knife when I was down there, just in case somebody attacked me. I had a weapon to protect myself. And believe me, I was willing to use that knife. I was so hateful and angry. Another symptom of the post-traumatic stress. So, one particular night, got into a fight with 5 other guys in the Bowery. I don't recall what we fought about. I don't recall. But I think I threatened them with a knife, I think. They left me alone. As I walked away, I turned the corner on 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue. I just collapsed. Passed out. The next thing I knew, I was being picked up by 2 big men. Turns out they were plainclothes policemen. They took me into a doorway and sat me down. And they said to me, "We don't know what you did to those 5 guys, but they're going to kill you." And I didn't tell the police I had the knife because it was an illegal knife that I had, which was a crime back in those days. And they said to me, "You better get out of here." And so the section I was in, it was very difficult to get out of there. Taxi cabs would not stop and pick up fares, and private cars would never stop in that area. It was very dangerous. But the police said I better get out of there. I had some money. I tried to stop some taxis, and they wouldn't stop. They kept going. Finally, I jumped in front of one taxi and waving a $20 bill. He stopped and he took me in and took me out of Skid Row. And that was my last time in Skid Row. But again, death was knocking at my door. If those 2 plainclothesmen did not pick me up off the street, those 5 guys that found me, what they do in Skid Row, they kick you to death. And I knew this. So again, death was knocking at my door. Again, something saved me. Another strange episode in Central Park in New York. I was on another binge, and I was playing war games in Central Park. I was drunk, creating in my mind war games, and I just passed out. And I rolled down a hill, and I just passed out, rolled down a hill. I'm laying in this pathway, and I was tasting sawdust and dirt and other horrible tasting things. And I don't know where I am. And all of a sudden, I looked up, and there's 2 policemen on horses saying to me, "You better get out of here. If you don't get up, you're going to get killed by the horses going by." Then I realized I was on a bridle path in Central Park. And I don't know how the hell I got there, but I must have got drunk, passed out, rolled down a hill into the bridle path. And again, thanks to these 2 policemen telling me to get the hell out of there, I did. But please believe me, I didn't stop drinking. I was so thirsty from the sand and other bad things in my mouth. I went looking for the closest bar I could find to get some beer in me to clean my mouth. Yes, my friends, welcome to a chronic alcoholic. But again, my life was saved. If the police had not gone along, people riding their horses through there may not see me laying there, and they could run over me. And I've heard of these things happening, and I could be killed by the hoofs of the horses. Another incident when I was drunk, I was walking in a snowstorm in a small town in New Jersey, and I passed out again. I fell down in the snow, and I don't know how long I was down in the snow. I don't know. I just fell down. I was exhausted. Well, I heard somebody yelling at me, "You better get up, Otherwise, the cars are going to run over you and kill you. And I look up, and there was two policemen. It seems I had rolled into a roadway in the snow, and the snow was coming down, covering me, and I'm laying in the snow in the roadway. And cars are going by. So then when I realized what the police was saying, they didn't help me get up, but I had to crawl up out of that where I was, and it was like a hill full of snow. I kept sliding back and forth, back and forth. We finally had enough sense to look for a tree or a branch to hold on to pull myself out of that situation. I don't know how I got out of there. I really don't. Being drunk, I just don't know where I went after that. There was another case where death was knocking at my door, and again, I didn't open the door.
How about the sleeping in the rocks? Sleeping on the rocks.
This is my last episode, which I will stop. Please believe me, this is very painful, telling these episodes. Very painful. But I guess they have to be told. Maybe another person who suffers from post-traumatic stress will seek treatment. I never did. Another person who suffers from alcoholism may seek help in the 12-step program, as I did. So maybe in a way, my experiences may help other people. I sure as hell hope it does.
Sleeping on the
last
rocks.
episode of their situation in my drinking history, I don't know the full background on this, except to say I fell asleep on a bunch of rocks in Kansas City. Now, please don't ask me how I got to these rocks in Kansas City. I don't know. That's where I was. I must have been in a blackout, got a plane from New York. I just don't know. All I know is I woke up sleeping on those rocks. And I realized where I was, and there was nothing around me. Just I was asleep on rocks. And it was a cold night. And luckily, I came to my senses, and I said, I better get off these rocks, because if I start sliding down these rocks, I'm going to slide onto a highway, and who knows, again, a car may come along, or a truck may come along, and kill me. I don't know how I get off those rocks. I guess I'm drunk. I don't know. I get off the rocks, and by hook or crook, I go back to my hotel where I was staying. But that too didn't stop me from drinking. This concludes my stories about death knocking at my door. I really don't like telling these stories. My children may read them, close friends may read them. People who knew I was very successful as a CPA, a good father, a good worker, etc., good citizen. I'd say, what in the hell happened to him? My friends, the best I can tell you is that I suffer from chronic alcoholism brought on by post-traumatic stress experiences, which came about during my amputation during the Korean War and being in hospitals with other amputees. And back in those days, all I can remember, I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live. And so I think the seed was planted there that I don't want to live this way as an amputee. I want to die. But it took a long time for the post-traumatic stress to pop up. When the war of Vietnam came along, it was a trigger to bring back my memories of my stays in hospitals with other amputees. And again, I wanted out. I wanted out. I had to die. I had to get out. I know it sounds crazy, but only a psychiatrist understands what I'm saying. Unfortunately, I did seek help eventually. What I've learned to do is to avoid triggers which may bring on my post-traumatic stress. It'll always be here. If I close my eyes right now, I can see the other guys I was with in the military hospitals who had lost their legs, lost their arms, lost their faces, lost their men's private parts. I can still see it. And it's like I just reach out and touch it. And so what I have to do is watch out for the triggers. And every so often, I lose control over this. For example, there's a military hospital here in Angeles City. It's now closed. It's on Clark Field. It's closed. One night I was watching a TV show about ghosts in this military hospital. And all of a sudden, I had to go there. And even my caretaker said, "What are you, crazy? It's closed." But I had to go to the hospital. I had to go and find something. There was something missing in my life. I had to go to that hospital and just look at this. It's closed. Closed. And I now understand it. It's part of my dealing with post-traumatic stress. I was reaching back for those days before I was an amputee, before I was around other amputees. But back in those days, the Korean War, the guys like me were all young like me. I was 19, they're 20. Most of them were in the Marine Corps. I never forgot them. They're still locked away in my mind. So I'm telling these stories. Maybe somebody will read them, hear them rather, and realize they suffer from post-traumatic stress. If they're not sure, if they have some strange behaviors, get some books on post-traumatic stress and read them. It's quite an eye-opener. And in some cases, you may need to see a psychiatrist because this thing is very, very dangerous. I never knew how dangerous it could be until 1967 when I started to drink. And I became a person who attacked anti-war protesters from the Korean War. I wanted to kill those people. I really did. The police would arrest me. They would chase me. On some occasions I'd be crying my eyes out, yelling at them, "Stop protesting!" Because my mind was back in the hospitals with the other amputees. So post-traumatic stress it's a wicked illness. And it never goes away. What you have to watch out for is the triggers. And as of today, thank God, there was no trigger. I hope you enjoy this narration. Thank you.